HOA story time. The neighbor wants OP to pay maintenance on his second home. No way. So the key players are me, 22 female, first-time renter, recently graduated university. Edwin, a 70-year-old male, extremely posh second homeowner. When me and my fiance, both early 20s at the time, were looking for our first place together, we ended up looking at a lot of flats. Most were way out of what we could afford and were really bad quality, like damp and dirty or no light and so on. So we were really pleased to find a great 2-bed flat that was within budget in a great location, right between the student side of town and a leafy, affluent suburb. The flat was in a small housing complex of about 20 flats. Each flat was in a block of 4 and 2 on the ground floor and 2 on the first floor, which is second floor to Americans. I don't know if it was actually designed for retirees, but it turns out that pretty much everyone who lived there was elderly. Our oldest neighbor was 102 years old, and most of the others were 70 plus. Beneath our flat lived 2 widowed elderly people, and the flat next to ours was vacant. Our landlady told us it belonged to a man named Edwin, the Karen of this story, who lived in a very large house on the next street over, and bought the flat as overflow, so when he had family visiting, he didn't have to host them in his own home. So we moved in, and things were going great, at first. The downstairs neighbors were really friendly, and they seemed happy to have young people about. I'd do a bit of shopping for the 102-year-old, and I'd say hello to the others if I passed them in the shared area. We never saw or heard anyone in the flat next to ours. However, the first winter after we moved in though, a slight damp problem in the bedrooms started to get worse. We told the landlady, who got it investigated, and it turned out the whole roof was rotten and needed replacing. The landlady assured us that the HOA would pay for most of the cost, and her and Edwin were liable for the rest. No problem, we thought, except one day I got a knock on the door and a smartly dressed and well-spoken old man was on my doorstep. He introduced himself as Edwin, and after a bit of polite but awkward chit-chat, I asked if I could help him with anything. Yes you can actually. It's about this roof problem I'm hearing about. What are you thinking you'll do about it? Oh, you'll have to speak to the landlady about that. She knows all the details about the contractor. Well, I don't want to bother her. I assumed you'll be fixing it as you're the only one affected. I'm confused and I say, no, as landlady, it's her responsibility to maintain the property. It's the property owners that are liable. But she and I don't even use this place. You're here, and I think it's only fair you contribute to the place that you're living in. I don't think so. That's why I'm paying her rent each month. I think you should do the decent thing and offer to pay the full cost. It's crazy expecting us pensioners to pay for you. I politely told him that he'd need to talk to the landlady and close the door, shaking my head at the audacity of this wealthy, privileged man to, for one, hoard a good quality home without using it in an area where there's a severe lack of decent housing. He refused to pay upkeep on the property that he's purchased, and he asked a young renter to pay money to fix his problem, essentially to pay into his equity, while I would get no long-term benefit. Edwin must have taken his complaints to the landlady in HOA, because the roof never did get fixed. Worth noting that, in addition to the flat we rented, our landlady rented out several other properties and also lived in one of the very large houses nearby. I suspect, as her and Edwin were neighbors, they decided to avoid bad blood by simply ignoring the issues and flobbing us off. We spent the next 4 winters opening windows, blasting the heating, and scraping mold off the walls until we'd finally saved up enough deposit to buy our own place. I mean, this feels like it's illegal, like you should tell the board what's going on. Well, how can they just make you pay for their stuff? And it just does not add up to me. Does it add up to you? Let me know. 20-something-year-old calls mommy because she was mistreated, posted by Irish Wonder. 10-year hotel vet, longtime lurker in this sub, first time to post. I hear it's therapeutic. Let's find out. The other night, I had a guest come down to the lobby and sit and begin to listen to music on her phone. She didn't have headphones in, and the music was very loud with explicit lyrics. But it was 11 at night and fairly slow, and I didn't want to give her trouble, so I let it go on for about 10 minutes. Eventually, the lounge closed, and 3 to 4 stragglers came walking through the lobby back to their rooms. A few glanced between me and her with a strange look. I just raised my eyebrows to them in acknowledgement, but at this point, it still didn't seem like a huge problem, and it wasn't bothering me. Minutes later, one of my last arrivals comes in. It's an older lady with the air of someone who's definitely going to leave a review with nothing but complaints, and right off the bat, the music from the phone gets ridiculously explicit. I'm hurrying to check this woman in as fast as possible while she's constantly evil-eyeing the lady on the couch and shaking her head in disappointment at me. I get her checked in and she leaves for the room, and at this point I realize I have to do something, so I politely address the lady on the couch. Hey ma'am, I'm sorry, but the sound on the phone will have to be off while you're in the lobby." She shrugged, got up, and walked to her room. Well, that actually went well, right? Cut to the next night. I had ran to the kitchen for about 5 minutes to help the restaurant staff close a few things down for the night, and as I'm walking back to the desk, I notice the same lady sitting on the couch, and in a chair next to her is a guy about her age. They both appear to be in their mid-20s, way too old for childish behavior, but I immediately knew that's what I was about to get. As I say hi to them, I notice the girl look at the guy and nod. He nods in return. It was obviously an attempt at clandestinely saying, "Yep, that's the guy." Oh good, what's this gonna be? I get behind the desk and brace for what these two are about to try to do. The guy asks the girl something along the lines of, "Hey, have you heard such and such song?" He's saying it loud enough for me to hear in a tone that's so obviously planned and staged. He then says he'll play it for her and immediately starts blasting some weirdo song from a genre of music that I can only describe as hardcore circus-themed EDM, and every other word is bleep, bleep, or bleep. I'm not gonna let this get to the point it did the night before, so I immediately and politely tell the guy the sound has to be off. He replies with, "I'm not going to turn it off, but I'll turn it down some." I shut him down and say that no, it needs to be off. He obliges, then begins having a conversation with the girl that is, again, aimed at me. They're basically throwing backhanded insults my way just loud enough for me to hear, and acting like they're having a private conversation. At one point, the woman actually calls her mom on her cell phone and begins to tell her how badly the hotel is mistreating her. Whatever, I'm not easily offended and I've seen my fair share of buttholes. Eventually, someone coming from the lounge passes through the lobby while talking to someone on his cell phone. The lady yells at him and tells him that he is being too loud on his phone and is going to get kicked out. That was enough for me. Now you're messing with business. You gotta go. I tell them both that they're going to need to go to their rooms for the night. They ignore me and act like that they didn't hear, so I picked up the phone and pretended to dial security. Security doesn't actually have a phone, they have a radio, but I was hoping the bluff alone would work. It did, and they both got up quickly and scurried off to their room. I got a call from my GM the next day asking me what had happened with these guests. He said that the girl's mom drove to the hotel and demanded to see a manager and screamed for 15 minutes at how rude I'd been. I told my GM what had happened and we shared a laugh. He told me if I had any more issues to just go straight to the cops and have them escorted off the property. Then came night 3. The lady came back down to the lobby holding hands with another girl. They both made sure to hold their hands up so that I could see it and shoot me a passive-aggressive grin. I currently live up north, but I'm from the south and have a thick accent that most people immediately pick up on. I honestly believe that they were trying to bait me into saying or doing something homophobic, assuming that I must be some stereotypical, hardcore Southern Christian gay-hating Klansman or something. They stood at our local brochure cabinet and browsed while talking under their breath. Not loud enough for me to hear, but I'm sure it was aimed at me. A few minutes later, the guy joins them and the conversation becomes loud enough for me to hear, and it's definitely more insults thrown my way. At this point, I decided it was enough. I told them they were going to need to return to their rooms or I would have security escort them off the premises. They demanded to know why, and I told them the truth as best as I could put it. Because none of you have emotionally matured past middle school, and I won't sit here and be disrespected for a second night because you fail to understand why we can't have curse words blaring in a place of business. The girl said something along the lines of, "Did you not learn your lesson today? I guess I'll have to call my mom again." I told her to go ahead, her mom could be escorted off the property as well, and they stormed off to their room. Got a call from my GM the next day. Mommy had been back, and he had promptly ended their reservation a day early. I love my GM. I'll just need your credit card and photo ID for check-in, please. Don't you know who I am? Yes, sir, I processed your booking. Credit card and ID, please. Posted by VDubBug68. And geez, if you're gonna pull the "don't you know who I am" line, surely you'd actually want to be somebody? So, one day my GM gets a call from a sister property manager interstate, the other hotel's building manager, Mr. Fancy Pants, not technically connected with our hotel chain, just a body corporate manager of the building the interstate hotel operates out of, is coming to our city the next day on some last-minute trip for a family or something or other, not even work-related. Apparently, I gather, he's one of these people that likes to feel connected or networked and gets a kick out of being able to say that he was hooked up with a good rate on a hotel room by having an associate call up on his behalf to make a booking for him with priority early check-in because connections. Ugh. Anyways, the GMs have a quick chat. My manager says, okay, email me his details. Into the phone, and 2 minutes later, clicks print, hands me a piece of paper, and says to me, here's a booking for you, Darls. I ask what rate. Whatever's online for tomorrow night. Okay. Anyway, I enter the booking, email the confirmation to Mr. Fancy Pants directly, and think nothing more of it. Until the next day. Pretty much bang on 12 p.m. the next day, in sachets, a middle-aged balding fellow that I presume is Mr. Fancy Pants. That was his ETA, and most of my other check-ins were regulars who aren't him. He gets to the counter, greets me smarmily, and introduces himself. I check the system and tell him that I can have a room ready now and can check him in. He seems very pleased that the pleb at the front desk knows what's what and is ready to acquiesce to his booking request for early check-in. Side note, if I have vacant rooms, I'll put you in one as soon as you arrive, mainly so I don't have to store your luggage and deal with you again later. So, I pull out his registration card, grab a biro or ballpoint pen, and ask him for his credit card and ID. It was an amazing and almost instantaneous transformation to see his smarmy, smiley face immediately drop into a bright red scowl. I think of an angry, slightly underripe beefsteak tomato as he raised his voice and spat at me. I'm not giving you my credit card and ID. Nobody told me about this. This is ridiculous. Don't you know who I am? I was a little taken aback by his demeanor, but replied with, yes, I know who you are, Mr. Fancy Pants. I processed your booking yesterday. We require a credit card and ID from all guests on arrival, and it was outlined on the confirmation that I emailed to you. I'll need them to be able to check you in. I'm not giving you my cards. I've booked a room and you're gonna give me my key. I'm sorry, I can't do that until you register on the form here and provide your credit card and ID. Fine, I'll pay cash for the room right now, but I'm not giving you my cards. You're welcome to pay cash on check-in for the room bill, but I will still need your credit card for the incidentals guarantee and your ID. There's not going to be any incidentals. Now, normally if reception was empty and I had the time, I'd be happy to play with an a-hole like this, going around and round in circles for as long as I fancied. I hate jerks, and something especially grinds my gears about arrogant, self-important tool bags like this. So, I like to put on my best, you can't complain about my service because I'm following policy and you're being a jerk, customer service voice, and keep going on this merry-go-round to nowhere for a good 10 to 15 minutes. But this was a busy day, I had crap to do, and it was about my lunchtime, so handball. Okay, sir, I'll get the manager for you. I sent my GM to the front desk. He'd actually heard the whole interaction from the office at that point, and is generally supportive of my playing on the merry-go-round with jerks. And I went out the back and boiled the jug for a cup of coffee and started heating up my lunch. A couple sips later, and GM lets me know that I can go and finish check-in. I return to the desk, and a very sedate and considerably less ripe tomato silently hands me his credit card and ID and the completed sign-in sheet. I process his auth, check him in, give him his room keys, Wi-Fi, and so on, and direct him to the lift. Mr. Fancy Pants quietly says, "Thank you. Sorry about that. I've had a long day." "Well, I hope your day improves. Have a good afternoon." Mr. Fancy Pants proceeds to his room, and I retrieve my now heated lunch and walk into the office to listen to half the conversation as my GM and sister property GM have a laugh about Mr. Fancy Pants' behavior and personality. I think the general consensus was pity for this guy, though my pity extended more toward anyone that had to work with him regularly. Stop lying to me, posted by Riastor. I've about had it. I'm gonna snap. 6 years and I'm tired. This is a long-winded vent post. Lady and a man come down today for breakfast after it's closed. Everyone I've got working at the front desk has been here for at least a year each. The man starts literally cussing in the lobby about how the girl that checked them in told them it closed at 10, but it closes at 9 on the weekdays. It's closed at 9 on the weekdays since we've opened. It has never before closed at 10. The girl that checked them in knows what time it closes because she used to double as a breakfast attendant. There is no way she told them 10. I told them it was okay, that I still had everything back there and I could fix them something like sausage or give them some sandwiches to take back to their room to heat up in the microwave, or muffins, or literally anything we have for breakfast except for waffles. I got it. Do you want it? What I want to do is beat that girl's butt for telling us the wrong breakfast times. Sir, the only reason I didn't get an attitude was because his wife kept trying to calm him down and took some stuff and she was alright. Completely unnecessary. I almost broke down and told them that they were wrong and there's no way she would have said 10. I barely managed not to. Then the other day, some company called because they had an extra day charged. What happened was, their dude left at like 5 p.m. after he told me he was going to just stay over that night. He sat right here in my lobby with me from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. waiting on a truck. Before he left, he extended another night and I remade his keys. So, his company gets mad and says they're going to call him because he was supposed to have been gone. The guy calls me himself after talking about, swearing up and down, that he left the hotel at 9 a.m. He was physically gone by 9 a.m. And I just said, no, sir, you were here with me until 1 p.m. You asked me to extend your reservation. No, there's no way. I was gone. I wasn't there. I left. Let me call you back, sir. So I go check the lock audit, and the last time he was with his key when in that room was 3:30 p.m. But his company was super sweet, so I just said, screw it, I'll refund him. So I called him back and started off with, well, the lock said you went in there at 3:30, and he cut me off and he was like, oh no, I was there at 1, maybe, but not 3. I was gone by then. It must have been one of your housekeepers. I broke and I was like, no sir, it was definitely your key, so I know you were here at 3:30, but it's okay because I'm going to refund it. I just wanted you to know that I know you were here. I've never been this done before. I'm just so tired of folks lying to me about everything. I'm usually super sweet and bend over backwards and don't like confronting guests on anything. I'll just take it and try my best to make sure everyone's happy, even if they're liars and I know they're lying and they know that I know they're lying. The other day, I had some super nice guests check in all day and I miss when folks were nice like that and I had good days interacting with people. It seems like everyone lately is on edge and confrontational and trying to game the system. HOA takedown. HOA destroys my property, but I'm not even part of the HOA. Click the video on your screen so you don't miss this crazy fallout and I'll see you there.